Today we will discover one of the most tragic stories in cave history. As always, viewer discretion advised. John Jones's body is still there. He's upside down in a 25 centimeters crack. His chest is wedged against the rocks. Blood has pooled around his head, and no one could get him out. So how can a person be buried alive with just a few wrong steps? November 24th, 2009, just outside Salt Lake City, in the desolate lands of Utah, there's a cave that looks ordinary from the outside, Nutty Putty Cave. Its passages, covered in soft brown clay, and its mapped safe areas have attracted thousands of cave explorers, but beyond the surface lies a deadly world. Narrow passages, labyrinthine tunnels, and dead-end paths that disappear into the darkness. This cave has trapped dozens of people over the years. Between 1999 and 2004, 6 major rescue operations were carried out. You'll see their stories in the upcoming videos. Stay tuned. As a result of these repeated incidents, the cave was closed in 2006. However, due to strong opposition from the local community, the local government was forced to reopen the cave in 2009. Upon hearing this news, many cave explorers began planning expeditions with great excitement. John Edward Jones, 26, was one of these cave explorers. He was a medical student at the University of Virginia, training in pediatric cardiology. He was married and had a 1-year-old daughter. His life was quite busy. John's passion for caving had been with him since childhood. He and his brother Josh had explored dozens of caves around Utah. However, in recent years, the pace of his life had slowed down this passion. He returned to Utah to spend time with his family during the Thanksgiving holiday. He was very excited when he heard that Nutty Putty had opened. Without wasting any time, he and his brother Josh made plans to explore the cave on Thanksgiving Day. John missed the old days, crawling through narrow tunnels, the darkness, and the thrill of discovery. November 24th, 8 p.m. The group of 11 gathered at the cave entrance. John's pregnant wife, Emily, stayed home. She was looking after their 1-year-old daughter, Lizzie. She often reminded John to be careful. The group entered the cave. Entering Nutty Putty after all these years excited them all. The first sections of the cave were wide and safe. With the help of ropes, they descended deeper and reached the big slide, which had a 45-degree incline. Further ahead was the maze room, with its labyrinthine narrow passages. The team's plan for the day was to spend time in the maze room area. As John and Josh crawled through this section, which they were already familiar with, they felt that this part did not satisfy them. They wanted more. Taking their 2 friends with them, they left the team. They tried to find the location of the Birth Canal. John led the way, with Josh behind him, advancing through narrow tunnels toward the Birth Canal. After a while, the tunnel split in 2, and John made an irreversible mistake by turning left. The tunnel he entered was not the Birth Canal. It was the extremely dangerous and uncharted Ed's Push area. Very few people had ever entered it, and a significant number of those who did had become trapped in the tunnel. John didn't know this. As they progressed, the tunnel narrowed, twisted, and curved. They reached a section called the Corkscrew. Only the smallest, most flexible people could pass through here. 5 years ago, 16-year-old Brock Clark had been trapped here for 14 hours. Brock was 170 centimeters tall and weighed 63 kilograms. John was 183 centimeters tall and weighed 95 kilograms. But he didn't want to turn back. He bent his body into an L shape, pressed his chest against the rocks, held his breath, and squeezed through. It was difficult. He sweated, but he made it. After the corkscrew, the tunnel widened slightly. He saw a ledge. He knew it was dangerous to continue, but turning back was impossible. He kept going. He flattened his chest and passed over the ledge. Beyond the ledge was a 45-degree slope. He began sliding down. He tried to stop, but his arms were tired and he couldn't hold on. He slid further down. He called out to,
"Don't come here. It's dangerous. Josh, don't come here." "What happened? Are you okay?" "There's a slope. I started slipping. Don't come. You get stuck too." "Can you get back out?" "I don't know. I'll try to move forward a bit and come back. Wait for me."
John moved forward a little more. He saw a narrow vertical crevice. He thought there was a wider area ahead. That's how the Birth Canal was. A narrow passage always opened up into a wider area. But what John didn't know was that he wasn't in the Birth Canal. He exhaled, flattened his stomach, squeezed between the rocks, and moved forward to enter the crevice, but fell into the steep pit at an unexpected speed. John was completely immobilized, upside down in a vertical hole 10 inches wide and 18 inches high. His arms were pinned at his sides, one bent under his chest, the other jammed against a rock below. His legs were bent at a sharp angle behind him, and worst of all, his head was down. John tried to move. Nothing happened. He tried to push. He couldn't move.
Josh, help!
His voice echoed, but Josh was too far away. John tried not to panic. He breathed, shallow, short breaths. His chest was constricted. He couldn't take a deep breath. Emily's voice echoed in his head. Now he wanted to talk to her so much. He wanted to see Lizzie, but he couldn't move. Minutes passed. Maybe 10, maybe 20. He didn't know. He had lost track of time. He was focused only on breathing. Each breath increased his panic level. The pressure of the rocks was squeezing his chest. Gravity was pulling the blood to his head. His head was throbbing. His eyes were burning. Can you imagine such helplessness? John shouted again.
Josh, please. Can you hear me?
Hearing his brother's cry, Josh panicked. He realized something was wrong and rushed into the tunnel without wasting any time. Guessing his brother was stuck, he first put his feet inside. He passed the corkscrew, climbed the protrusion, and the sight he saw froze his blood. Only John's shoe was visible. The rest of him had completely disappeared. It was as if the cave had swallowed him.
John, can you hear me? Josh, I'm stuck. I can't move. Stay calm. I'll get you out. I've got your leg. I'm pulling. Pull. Please pull.
Josh grabbed John's leg and pulled with all his might. John moved a few inches, but then slid down further. He sank deeper.
Stop. It's getting worse. What are we gonna do? Josh, what are we gonna do?
I'll call for help. We need professional help. Try to stay calm. I'll be right back.
Don't go. Please don't go. Josh, I beg you, don't leave me alone.
I have to go, John, but I'll be back. I promise.
Josh left. John was alone in the darkness, meters below the surface. Hours passed. He tried to breathe. Each breath became harder. His chest felt tight. His lungs were burning. His head felt like it was going to explode. His eyes were swollen. His hands were numb. He could no longer feel his arms. He began to pray. It was 12:30 a.m. He had been trapped for 3 hours. The first rescuer arrived. Her name was Susie Mottola. When she reached John, the sight she saw shook her too. Only his legs were visible. The rest of him was inside the rocks.
John, it's Susie. We're going to get you out of here.
Please get me out of here. I beg you. I want to leave.
I know, John. Stay calm. We'll get you out of here.
Susie tied straps to his legs and stretched back on the ropes. The team pulled on the ropes. Nothing happened. There was too much friction. John didn't budge. Susie tried for about 2 hours. Nothing worked. When she surfaced, she was exhausted and hopeless. She explained the situation to the team.
It's very difficult to even reach him. Getting him out of there, I don't know. It's very, very difficult.
Was there really a way to get John out of there? Do you think the team should have taken the risk and continued the rescue attempt? The situation looked hopeless. However, 5 years earlier, Brock Clark, who was trapped in the same place, had been rescued. He had also been upside down for 14 hours. So how did they rescue him? Stay tuned to find out. Over 100 people gathered at the surface. Rescue teams, engineers, emergency personnel. John's pregnant wife Emily was there too. She was praying nervously at the cave entrance. The team, listening to John's situation, quickly began preparing a rescue plan. First, they considered using a lubricant to get John out, but the angle and narrowness made this impossible. They considered breaking his legs, but the risk of internal bleeding was too high. As a last resort, they considered setting up a pulley system. Holes would be drilled into the rocks, anchor bolts would be placed, ropes would be tied to John's legs, and he would be pulled back inch by inch. However, just getting the equipment there would take an hour. The tunnel was so narrow that only one person could enter at a time, and that person had to be small and flexible. November 25th, 4 p.m. John had been hanging upside down for 19 hours. Trauma surgeon Dr. Doug Murdoch said hanging upside down for so long was fatal. The human body wasn't designed for it. Blood and fluids were pooling in his head, and his stomach and intestines were pressing on his lungs. His brain and lungs were under extreme pressure. As the hours passed, his organs would fail, and suffocation was inevitable. Rescue teams could hear the wheezing sound coming from John's chest. Fluid was accumulating in his lungs. Work began. The cave filled with the sound of drills. Bolts were placed into the rock. Ropes were secured, and they began to slowly pull John out. Ryan Schertz was in the tunnel. He was lying face down in a 12-inch high space, his head next to John's legs. It was hard to breathe, but he didn't pull back.
John, we're gonna pull you out. Are you ready?
Yes. Please. Pull.
Be strong. It'll hurt a little, but we're getting you out.
On the first pull, John moved. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. John was able to move a little in the space he was stuck in, but the pain was unbearable. Blood hadn't reached John's legs for hours, and they had turned purple. With each pull, his nerves burned like fire. John let out a pain-filled scream. The team paused. They gave John time to breathe. Then they tried again. Inch by inch, he was coming up. Ryan looked down. He made eye contact with John. For the first time, Ryan handed him a tube, and John drank Gatorade. He was exhausted, in pain, but awake. He was still there. He was put on the radio with Emily.
John, can you hear me?
Emily, I'm sorry, Emily. I should have stayed home. I should have thought about you and Lizzie.
Don't think that, John. You're a good father, a good husband. You're just tired.
I'm so tired, Emily. So...
I know, but don't give up, okay? Hold on for me. Hold on for Lizzie.
I'm holding on. But it's so hard. So hard.
I know, my love. It's so hard. But you're strong. You always have been. And I love you. Lizzie loves you very much, too.
I love you too. I love you so much. Tell Lizzie. Tell her how much her father loves her.
You'll tell her very soon because they're taking you away. Promise me you won't go.
I promise.
Was John really a good father? Was it right for him to go into narrow tunnels when he had a 1-year-old daughter and a pregnant wife at home? Was this John's fate, or did John choose this fate himself? Do you think a dangerous hobby like caving is acceptable for someone with a family? The team continued to pull. John was rising, but his legs were hitting the ceiling of the tunnel. John needed to bend his legs, but he couldn't control himself. They seriously began to consider breaking his legs. Time was running out. Then suddenly there was a crackling sound, a sharp, frightening sound. One of the anchor bolts fixed to the rock broke, and the pulley and carabiner hit Ryan in the face. The impact knocked Ryan unconscious. When he woke up, his head was split open, his lip was split, and his tongue was torn. His head was spinning, his eyes couldn't see, and John slid back. All the progress, all the effort was gone in a second. When Ryan came to, it was dark, and he was covered in blood. John had retreated to the bottom of the hole.
John, can you hear me?
Yes.
Please, answer.
Yes. I'm here.
Someone else is coming. We'll get you out. I promise.
Ryan was pulled out and sent to the hospital. His father, Dave, took his place. Dave entered the tunnel and reached John. He tried to thread a rope through his chest, but John's body was so tightly wedged that the rope wouldn't pass. Dave tried to maneuver further, straining himself, and eventually got stuck too. He remained motionless for 15 minutes. After struggling for a while, he finally managed to free himself. When he emerged, he was exhausted and injured. The third rescuer, Brandon Kowalis, entered. He called out to John. John was no longer responding. A deep, gurgling breath. John's lungs were filling with fluid. His legs twitched, then kicked violently. Then he lay still again. Brandon heard a sound, like a final breath, then silence. Brandon tried to widen the tunnel. He worked for 2 hours, gaining only 2 inches. John was still silent. Emily waited at the surface. Pregnant, she stood outside the cave entrance, surrounded by rescuers, family, and strangers. She had spoken to John earlier on the radio. Her voice had been tired but steady. Now the silence from below was unbearable. The radio was lowered again. Emily spoke to him. Her voice was soft, loving, painfully hopeful.
John, our baby is waiting for you. Lizzie is waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. Just rest a little, okay? Just don't give up. Please don't give up. Come home. Come to us. I love you so much.
She waited, hoping for a response from John, but there was no sound. November 25th, 11:56 p.m. It had been 28 hours. A medical professional reached John. There was no pulse. There was no breath. John Edward Jones died. The inversion, the crushing, and the lack of oxygen had finally overcome his body. His heart could no longer keep fighting. He died upside down in that narrow space, where he had begged for hours to be let out. The news spread quickly. Emily was beside herself. No, this couldn't be true. There must be a mistake. John was strong. He was resilient. She had just spoken to him. His voice was tired, but he was there. He was alive. Her voice trembled. She placed her hand on her pregnant belly, unconsciously trying to protect it.
Check again, please. Check again. Maybe he's weak, but he has to be there. He has to have a pulse.
But the answer remained the same. John was dead. She fell to her knees. She sat on the cold ground in front of the cave entrance. There were people around him, but he couldn't hear anyone. There was only one thought in his head. John would never come back. Lizzie would never see her father again. The baby in her womb would never know its father. He buried his face in his hands and cried. But now there was a question no one wanted to face. What would happen to John's body? The rescue team spent hours underground. John's body was still trapped between the rocks. Getting him out was nearly impossible. Even when he was alive, the angle, position, and fragility of the passage made every inch dangerous. Now, without the help of his muscles, getting his body out would require breaking bones, lifting rocks, and taking risks. The authorities considered every option. Finally, they made a heartbreaking decision. John's body would remain where it was. It would be sealed inside the cave. It was a terrible decision. But was there any other option? Would it be right to put more rescuers at risk? Or was leaving John there the only solution? What do you think should have been done? On December 1st, 2009, just 6 days after John's death, the entrance to Nutty Putty Cave was permanently sealed with a concrete plug. John's remains were still inside. At the entrance, John's family placed a plaque in his memory. It served not only as a marker for the lost, but also as a warning to others. It contained a tribute to his kindness, humor, love for family, and faith.